Hi folks, FPL General here, recording a new episode of my 59th minute FPL podcast, recording on Tuesday, November 19th. Thankfully, the final international break until March is almost over. And once Gameweek 13 rolls around this weekend, it's going to be a crazy couple of weeks. I think we've got something like 9 game weeks in 40 days. So December is going to be absolutely bonkers and hopefully full of green arrows. So hopefully the podcast will help you achieve those. Hopefully talking through my own thoughts every week will help me to get a few green arrows as well. So going to follow the usual format this week. Going to get straight into it. Shout outs going way back to game week 12. It feels like a long time ago now. I think there was 3 59-minute appearances, so 3 new members to the 59th minute club. Jose Perez of Leicester, Leandro Trossard of Brighton, and Andre Gray at Watford. So 3 new members. I think that brings it up to about 10 or 11 players in total now. Nobody's managed 2 59-minute appearances yet, but I'm sure over this busy period we're going to get lots of rotation, lots of substitutions, and there'll be plenty of shout-outs. So I'm going to have to keep my eyes peeled over the next few weeks to make sure I don't miss any of those. Just in relation to those guys, obviously Perez has been, he got his hat-trick recently, but just looking at his numbers, he hasn't played 90 minutes once this season, so he always gets taken off early. So that always puts me off the likes of Perez. And Harvey Barnes is similar for Leicester as well. Trossard, I'm going to talk to him. I've removed him from the watch list. Number one, I don't like that early substitution, and I don't like the fixtures for Brighton either. And Andre Gray, that was he was very close to a 59th minute shout out a couple of weeks ago. He's had a 58 and a 59 now, so I think Gray is one to stay away from in FPL. As I said, Game Week 12 is quite a while ago now, so I'm just going to do a very quick review of how it went for me. I went into the international break with a nice 100k green arrow. I went from about 388k overall, jumped up to 283k, so I'm very happy with where I am at the minute, and hopefully over these next 5 or 6 weeks I can push on. It would be nice to be around 100k around New Year, and then really hopefully push on second half of the season. So I'm very happy with how the season's going, very happy with my squad overall. Wildcard is still there for whenever I need it. I'm going to talk about it later because there's a question about it. I took a -4 going into Game Week 12. I got rid of Salah, Mopai and Greenwood, and I brought in Tielemans, Vardy captain, and Jimenez. So that was pretty sweet transfers. I mean, even though Salah scored, it didn't bother me too much because the 3 guys I brought in all delivered. It was nice to get a captaincy haul for a change. And overall, I think that -4, it was just a nice little shake-up before the busy period. Moving to a 3-4-3. Overall, I feel like my squad's in good shape now. It's going to be 3-4-3 with Trent, Robertson and Lundstram at the back for the next couple of weeks, probably the next 5 weeks. That leaves the likes of Tomori and Rico on the bench. So I've got bench players as well, decent options to come in if there is, rotation and injury. So overall, pretty happy. It was 72 points. With the -4, that was a 68. Positives, Nick Pope, clean sheet, bonus points. Not, that was well overdue. He's been quite disappointing actually this season, Nick Pope. When you compare, Burnley goalkeepers to previous seasons, there's a question about goalkeepers as well. So I'll come back to Nick Pope. Robertson got the assist for the Salah goal, so that softened the blow for me a little bit as someone who sold Salah going into Game Week 12. Tielemans, Tammy Abraham, Jimenez, Vardy all delivered. I benched Tomori for his 9-pointer, which was frustrating, but again, I don't worry too much about bench points. I try and look at them positively rather than negatively. I've got a good option there, Tomori on the bench. Even if he's scoring points, at least he can come in in those weeks that I will need him. Negatives as well, nothing from Trent, nothing from Lundstram. Lundstram did have 3 shots on the box, so he hit the woodwork. On another day, you would be looking at another healthy return from Lundstram, so not bothered by his 2-pointer. He's going to be in my starting 11 against United. He's going to be in my starting 11 for the next 5 game weeks. The only games I'll probably consider benching Lundstram for are Liverpool and Man City games, and even in those, you never know. The guy is a legend. So Lundstram is a permanent fixture in my starting 11 now. He's not going to be on my bench anytime soon. Nothing from De Bruyne. who's been disappointing the last couple of weeks. Again, I'll come to him when it comes to making my transfers. I've got a decision this week, like a lot of people. Do I lose De Bruyne or do I lose Sterling to get Mane? And I think I'm going to hold on to De Bruyne and get rid of Sterling. But again, I'll come back to that towards the end of the podcast. Nothing from Mason Mount either. He's been, again, a little bit disappointing in recent weeks. But, the bigger picture, I got him in at 6.5 million and he's been great for me this season. So I know a lot of people are thinking about selling him, maybe for Pulisic or some other options around a similar price. Again, a couple of questions about Mason Mount later. So I'll come back to all those players that I mentioned there. So overall, Gameweek 12 was a good one. Nice green arrow. So hopefully I can carry that into the next couple of weeks now and just keep climbing. Next up, I'm going to talk about my watch list. So I updated it right after Gameweek 12. So added 4 or 5 players and removed probably a similar number as I do most weeks. So starting with the positives, the players I've added to my watch list. Pulisic, who I mentioned. I didn't have him on my watch list because, number one, I've got 3 Chelsea players already in Mount, Abraham and Tomori, so I can't fit him in easily. The other reason I didn't have him on the watch list was because of fear of rotation. But I think given his form in recent weeks, he's got 5 goals in his last 3, 37 FPL points over the last 3 games, which is huge. I think he's played his way into the starting 11 now. It's going to be very hard for Frank to drop him, and he's passing the eye test as well. He just looks really good, gets lots of shots away. He's playing. He seems to be in the box a lot more often than Mason Mount is these days. So I can understand why people are looking to make the switch from Mount to Pulisic. I think that is, I'm never a big fan of sideways moves, but I think that is an upgrade. It is sideways, but I think it is an upgrade. 7.4 million Pulisic is now. The only issue is he does have Man City this weekend, so I think it's fine to wait, even though I think Chelsea can get at that Man City defence at the weekend. I think even if you do get Pulisic this weekend, you start him and he could get you something against City, but I think it's fine to wait till Game Week 14, give him another week, have a look at him and see what you think. Underlying stats as well, had a quick look on Fantasy Football Hub for Pulisic. 13 penalty area touches in Game Week 12 and also 6 shots in the box against Crystal Palace. So he's passing the eye test and the stats are backing it up as well. So I think Pulisic he's emerged now as a really, really exciting FPL prospect. I'm definitely interested. I mean, I've got 3 Chelsea, so I'm probably not going to do it anytime soon. But I think anyone who maybe only has 2 Chelsea players or can get to him easier than I can, I am warming to Pulisic now. Another player I've added after Game Week 12 is Adama Traore at Wolves. I've watched the last couple of Wolves games and they're just very exciting to watch when this guy is playing on the wing. You just can't defend against him. He's an absolute nightmare for defenders, his pace and power. 5.2 million now, so he's a very tempting price. I'm tempted to maybe bring him in for the busy period if I can find a way of turning Cantwell into Traore. I like that idea. Even if it means Traore is my first sub most of the time, I think he's a very good option as a first sub because he's the kind of player. Most weeks he's probably going to get you 2 points, but like we've seen a couple of weeks ago, he can get 15 or 16 points in any given game week just because of the kind of player he is. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists now for the season. I think he's got quite a few assists in the Europa League as well, as far as I know. He got a great assist for Jimenez in Game Week 12. That assist he got for Jimenez kind of showed me that Traore is really maturing as a player. We've seen it in recent seasons where he beats players for fun, but then when he gets in the final third, he doesn't always make good decisions. But I think he's making a lot more good decisions now in the final third, and that was a very smart cutback for Jimenez to get that goal last in Game Week 12. He hit the crossbar as well in that game. It was a typical Traore. He got into the final third, wasn't sure what to do, and just had a pop and hit the crossbar. So on another day, it would have been a goal and an assist, and probably quite a few more bonus points as well. So another thing I like about Traore this season is he's getting a lot of game time. So I had a look. In the last 9 games, he's played 90 minutes. And I think that's key for a player like Traore, because if he's playing 90 minutes, what you'll find is, late in games, if Wolves' opponents are chasing the game, they're going to leave a lot of space, and Traore is the ideal player to have for the counter-attack in those situations. So I like the fact that he's playing 90 minutes because, late in games, that's when he can do his damage. I think that's what we've seen against Man City when he scored 2 goals. I think, as far as I remember, at least one of them goals came late, if not both. So I really like Traore. I think a lot of people are going to be put off him by his last couple of seasons. If you look at his numbers, they're not good for the game time he's got. But another thing I like about him is Nuno came out after the game in the press conference and praised him just about how much he's working to improve, and he's obviously got the backing of his manager, which is great as well. Another reason why people might be put off Traore is because he's played right wing back quite a few times this season, but for me that actually doesn't put me off him, because I watch Wolves when Traore's on the wing and Doherty's playing wing back, Doherty still finds himself in the box. So if Traore does find himself playing wing back again, it's not going to stop him. He's still going to have license to get forward and get in the box. So I think Traore is a really, really good option, and I'm definitely interested. If I can find a way, as I said, if I've got a luxury transfer at some point over the next few weeks and I can get from Cantwell to Traore, I like that idea. Looking ahead as well, a lot of people are starting to think about game week 18 now, where Liverpool don't play. Liverpool and West Ham have a blank game week. And if you look at the fixtures in that game week, Wolves are away to Norwich, and we know any FPL player playing against Norwich is a good option. So I think that's another plus in Traore's favour, that he's got a nice fixture in that blank game week. So if you're someone that's going to maybe bench your Liverpool players that week, Traore can come into play for you for that nice fixture. Chris Wood, Burnley, 6.2 million. Another player who is back on my watch list, having been on it earlier in the season. He missed a couple of games with injury, but he has scored 5 goals in his last 5 appearances. It would have been 6 in 5 if it wasn't for a pretty tight VAR call that ruled out one of his goals in game week 12. A bit like Traore, I like Chris Wood because he's playing 90 minutes a lot. He's played 90 minutes in the last 5 games, whereas Ashley Barnes has only played 90 minutes once over those 5 games. So I think Wood is the best Burnley striker at the moment over Barnes. Easy for me to say that anyway when Ashley Barnes dried up when I got him in earlier in the season. So I do like Chris Wood. Fixtures are a bit of a mixed bag. I'm just getting them up in front of me here for Burnley. Watford and Crystal Palace next, which is fine, but then it's Man City and Spurs. So Man City home, Spurs away. So it is a bit mixed for Chris Wood, but he's in great form, and I do like Burnley when it comes to FPL. Looking at some of the underlying stats again, Chris Wood, game week 12, was top for shots on target with 4. So again, underlying stats there are looking good for Chris Wood as well. Another Burnley player who has made his way onto my watch list this week is Charlie Taylor, 4.2 million. He's got his place back now. Eric Peters came in there game week 1 because Taylor had an injury going into the season, but after a couple of disappointing results, Taylor has found his way back in at left back, completed his first 90 minutes of the season in game week 12, so I think Taylor will keep his place now after that clean sheet. Just a nice cheap route into a Burnley defence, which we know over the last couple of seasons, when it comes to lesser sides who are fairly reliable for clean sheets here and there, Burnley are pretty good. So I like Taylor. You don't want to start him every week, but if you're looking for a cheap defender as maybe a rotation with another player in your team, whether it's a defender or another position, I think Taylor is one to look at now. Maybe you might want to give him another week or two just to be 100% sure he's going to keep that place, but I think he will, given that they got the clean sheet there. Sean Dyche tends to be pretty loyal to his players, if they're performing well. So I think Taylor is a safe bet now. When it comes to players that I've removed from the watch list, pretty self-explanatory. These guys, Mendy and Cancelo, are both gone. If you're not going to play these guys against Liverpool, they can't be trusted for FPL. So I've got no interest in Man City defence at the minute. Ederson is the only safe one there, and I don't want to pay a premium price for a goalkeeper. Trossard is gone, as I mentioned. Don't like the fixtures, don't like the fact he came off early. Another Brighton player, Connolly, is gone from the watch list as well. He's only managed 45 minutes twice in the last couple of weeks. He is yet to play 90 minutes this season. So Connolly, I don't like him. I still think he's a fine option as maybe a first or a second sub. But in my setup now, I've got Vardy, Jimenez, Abraham. So I'm not looking for a budget striker. So Connolly's gone. Jota's gone as well. I was very close. I was weighing up Jimenez versus Jota going into game week 12. I was considering getting Jota maybe as a bit of a differential. But I'm glad I went for Jimenez now, the safer option. Jota came off early and got a yellow card, which kind of sums him up over the last 2 seasons. He's got all the potential in the world, Jota, to be an excellent FPL asset, but more often than not, he's quite a frustrating player to own. So yeah, I'm happy I went for Jimenez over Jota. Moving into the questions now from Twitter. Thanks to everyone who sent them in. I put up the tweet yesterday. I think there was about 95 replies on this. So I've picked out 6 or 7 of the best ones that will cover some of the main talking points this week. First one came in from FPL Ferry. Very good Twitter account. Make sure you give FPL Ferry a follow. He asks, what is the optimal time to wildcard for people like us who are clutching onto it? Good question. I think this question as well, I'm going to tackle it from both perspectives, for people, with blank game week 18 in mind as well. I think whether you have your wild card or not, I think now you really need to start thinking about game week 18 and how your team is going to look there. For people like myself and Ferry who still have the wild card, I think it's obviously going to make navigating that blank game week a little bit easier for us. But the question then is, when do you actually activate it? Do you do it in 18? Do you do it in 19? Or do you do it in 20? So, or do you do it before then? So for me personally, I'm quite happy with my squad. Looking at the next 5 game weeks before game week 18, I'm very happy. I'm going to have triple Liverpool before the weekend rolls around. I've got my 2 Leicester. I've got a City player. I've got Jimenez. I've got Lundstrom. So I'm pretty happy just to attack the next 5 game weeks without the wild card. Without having done too much looking into it yet, the last time the wildcard can be used is, so you have to use the wildcard before the game week 20 deadline, which is Saturday morning, the 28th of December. So my initial thinking is hopefully maybe save 2 free transfers going into game week 18, and then possibly losing, 1 or 2 Liverpool players with the idea of getting them back on the wildcard then. Now, looking at the fixtures around that as well, Liverpool don't play game week 18, then they've got Leicester away game week 19, which is a tricky fixture. So if I was to lose, let's say I was to lose Mane and Robertson for game week 18, I wouldn't be in a mad rush to get them back in then for game week 19. Because it's Leicester away, and I wouldn't expect massive points there for the Liverpool asset. So game week 20, then they've got Wolves at home. So to me, that feels like a better time maybe to get them back in. And obviously game week 20 is the last time you can play the wild card. So my initial thinking is I'm probably going to go that route, try and save 2 free transfers for game week 18, and then wild card in game week 20. Now there's a couple of issues there as well. Real life is going to get in the way here, because for anyone who wants to wildcard in game week 19, that is your Boxing Day. That's your Christmas Day, Boxing Day. So you're going to have to worry about your wildcard, maybe Christmas Day in the evening, or Boxing Day morning, which I just don't want to do that. The other issue with that is it's very dangerous, because if you're like me, you like a few drinks over Christmas, and you don't want to have a few drinks Christmas Day, or be out Christmas night and then wake up with a hangover on Boxing Day morning and have to put a wildcard squad together before 11:30. So again, that's another reason why I'm probably going to wait till game week 20. The issue, game week 20 is not ideal either, because the game week 19 ends with a Friday night fixture. I think it's Wolves Man City on a Friday night, and then it's your Saturday morning deadline. So you've basically only got a couple of hours, to finalise your wildcard squad there as well. So I think the most important thing, something I always do over Christmas, the busy period, is the first thing you should do is write down when all the deadlines are. Just make on a post-it note. I just do a post-it note and stick it on my laptop when the deadlines are, because if you're ever going to miss a deadline, it's going to be during the busy period. So get that right first of all, and then decide when the best time to play it is. But for me, that's my initial thinking. I'm going to leave it right to the last minute. Game week 20, maybe if I've lost a few Liverpool players, get them back in. if I do lose Liverpool players for game week 18, I can take advantage of some of the teams that have good fixtures game week 18 and 19. So I'll be taking a short-term punt before a wild card. I think Aston Villa have Southampton and Norwich at home in that period. I think Manchester United might have decent fixtures. I think they've got Watford and Newcastle possibly. So that's my thinking in terms of for people who have the wild card. I think game week 20 might be the best time to do it. For those who don't have a wild card, I think the most important thing for you is to start thinking about game week 18 now. I think most importantly your bench. If you're going to keep your Liverpool players and bench them, if you're going to bench 2 or 3 Liverpool players game week 18, you need to have bench players who can come in. So if you're rolling at the minute with maybe a 3.9 million defender on your bench who doesn't play, maybe someone like Cantwell who's not very reliable, start thinking about that and start addressing it, and maybe start improving your bench over the next couple of weeks with game week 18 in mind. And it's not just game week 18. Benches are going to be required over the busy period. Games are going to come every 3 or 4 days. Players are going to get rotated. Your bench is going to be needed, so focus on that. I've seen a few people mention free hit game week 18. For me, that is just a no-go strategy, simply because if you look at the fixtures in game week 18, they're not great. Where are you going to go with your free hit? I don't think there's too many gains to be made by using a free hit in game week 18. I think it will be better served to keep that free hit for later in the season, most likely for the big blank game week, whenever that is. So for me, I would prepare for game week 18 now over the next 5 weeks rather than using your free hit in that. I think that could be a bit of a waste of a free hit chip. Just my opinion. People will probably play it and do really well out of it, but I think it's much better probably to prepare over the next few weeks and be able to keep that chip for the second half of the season. So that's just a few thoughts on blank game week 18 and wildcards all rolled into one. Again, I think the key thing is make sure you know when them deadlines are, because they will come thick and fast. Like I said, there's going to be game weeks finishing on a Friday, game week starting next morning, so make sure you know when those are. Question from Duncan Hadland. Very simple question, one word with a question mark: Mount. So what do we do with Mason Mount? A lot of people are getting cold feet and starting to move away from him. To me, I feel like maybe people might be moving away too early. It comes down to value for me. I got him at 6.5. I think he's 6.8 now. He has 6 attacking returns in 12 appearances. That's really good for a 6.5 million midfielder playing for a Chelsea team who are looking really good going forward. So there could be more returns to come there. Yes, Pulisic is probably looking better at the minute, but the only, I'm saying this, I may end up selling Mount myself in a maybe 2 or 3 weeks time if he continues to be quiet. But I'm happy to keep him a little bit longer, give him a bit more time. The only, when I look at alternatives for Mason Mount, there's not that many. Tielemans is probably the best one around the same price point. I've already got him. Then you're probably looking at maybe John McGinn or Jack Grealish at Villa. And Villa have got a couple of tricky fixtures coming up, 14, 15 and 16. They've got United, Chelsea and Leicester. And then Sheffield United, which is another tough one. So the only reason I would sell Mount would be either to downgrade to, improve maybe a striker, if it's a double switch, or just to upgrade him to maybe a Pulisic or a Martial or these, more expensive midfielders. Otherwise, I don't like any of the alternatives for Mason Mount really at the same price for me to get rid of him. So Mount's going to stay for me for a couple of weeks and I'll just reassess it then. But again, like anyone who sells Mason Mount, I don't think that's an issue either. I think it's one of those, I seem to be saying this on every podcast, these days. I think it's one of those where it's fine to keep him, but it's also fine to sell him. Next question came in from Nimrod Kadosh. Can we consider a Sheffield United defensive double up? And if so, who would you pair with Lord Lundstram? So yeah, I think a lot of people will be looking at maybe doubling up on Sheffield United defence. Maybe not this weekend because it's Manchester United. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Blades can keep a clean sheet there against us this weekend. They've been so good. They're just so well organised. I think they will frustrate us this weekend. Obviously, Henderson can't play this weekend. Once that fixture's out of the way, I think a lot of people will be looking to him as their goalkeeper. I think if I was to double up, I think for me the most likely scenario is to go from Pope to Henderson when Burnley's fixtures get a little bit trickier, which is soon. I'm probably not going to get a second defender in, just because I'm in a 3-4-3 and I've got the two Liverpool guys on Lundstram, so I don't really have space for another defender. If I was to go for a defender, for anyone who can do that, I think I like Baldock most because of his price, because he's a wing back. He gets forward a lot. He probably should have more attacking returns than he has this season, going on the eye test. Missed quite a few good chances this season. Got his first goal in Gameweek 12, and I think he's capable of getting a few more goals this season as well, the way he plays. I really like Stevens as well on the left, but again, it's probably 0.6 more roughly. So I think you're getting it's much of a muchness there between those two. So I like the cheaper guy in that case. If you want another centre back, I think I would go for O'Connell. I think Egan picked up a calf injury for Ireland last night, so keep an eye on that one if you're looking at Egan. But yeah, I think Baldock is the guy. Baldock is the guy who would go alongside Lundstram if you want two defenders. Otherwise, I think Henderson Lundstram is probably the best double up. Question from Vasa Gold: Vardy captain, set and forget? ? This is something I'm thinking about myself. So I mentioned on the last podcast that I was going to go for the Mane Vardy double up for the next few weeks and just captain. I think I said I would captain Mane maybe 4 out of 5, and then Vardy when he plays Norwich. But I'm more interested in Vardy now, given that he did well for me in Gameweek 12. I tend to be quite loyal with players who do well for me. So the armband is on Vardy for me at the minute for Gameweek 13 because I actually don't own Mane yet. I haven't made that transfer yet. Looking at Leicester's fixtures, next 5: Brighton away, Everton home, Watford home, Villa away, Norwich home. There's a very strong case to be made for just stick the armband on Jamie and just leave it there for the next 5 weeks. I may end up doing it myself. The more I think about it, I like that idea. But again, there probably will be a couple of weeks where I probably would prefer Mane over Vardy. But I'm going to come to captaincy soon, but it's very tricky this week. I think Mane versus Vardy, it's a really tricky call this week, and it's one I'm going to struggle with, I think. And I may end up just sticking with the guy who did well for me last week in Vardy. So set and forget Vardy next 5 weeks. I think it's a viable strategy, and it's something I'm thinking about myself. Question from FPL Thinker. FPL Thinker he says, give me a low ownership differential. And he mentions Gineppo at Southampton, just a bit of a off the wall shout. I'm going to throw in here he's a bit like Traore, Saint-Maximin at Newcastle. He's a similar player, bags of speed and power, very unpredictable, but potential to score lots of FPL points. He rattled the crossbar in Gameweek 12 from about 4 yards out. He it was probably about 100 miles an hour, the shot. He could have just placed it, but he's that kind of player. 5.4 million. Fixtures are decent for Newcastle, I think. Again, I'm not saying go out and buy this guy, but if you really want to have a bit of fun, why not just get Gineppo, Saint-Maximin and Traore as a 3-man midfield and just have a bit of fun with it. But yeah, no, I'm not saying that, but if you really want something different, Saint-Maximin I think could be a differential for the next couple of weeks. Question from Heskibo: what to do with Man City midfielders? Now, Heskibo asked this question, as did about 25 other people. I'm asking myself the same question this week. I've got De Bruyne and I've got Sterling. My plan this week is Sterling to Mane, and I think I will follow through with it. It's always hard to sell a Man City attacker. It is hard to sell Sterling because I can see him doing well against Chelsea. But I think, Mane is the guy I want to own more for the next 5 weeks. He's more reliable in terms of starts as well over the busy period. So I think I will just stick to the plan and make that switch and just be done with it. What to do with Man City midfielders? Again, I think it's fine to keep them. It's fine to sell them. I think I would like to have at least one of them. I don't like the idea of having no Man City midfielders. So I don't think it matters too much who you own out of De Bruyne or Sterling. I think as long as you have one of them, I think is a good idea. I've still got a lot of faith in De Bruyne, even though he's been quiet the last couple of weeks. I still think he will prove to be better value over the course of the season. And I just like the cash that Sterling frees up rather than selling De Bruyne. But I think, selling either or is justified looking at the stats and the eye tests in recent weeks. Sterling probably was the best Man City player in my eyes in Game Week 12, which is making it hard for me to sell him. There is a small chance I'll change my mind and just bank my transfer this week, but I think at this point I'm just going to stick to the plan and go Sterling to Mane and not overthink it. So yeah, Man City midfielders is a tricky one. I think they will come back firing, and people who say the title race is over, I think that is, I don't think that's the case. I think City will still play a big role. I think they'll come out of the traps next couple of weeks and blow a couple of teams away as they're capable of. So yeah, I think keeping Man City midfielders is fine. The main reason I'm going to do Sterling to Mane is because I'm not going to captain Sterling over the next 5 game weeks. So I'm more likely to captain Mane for a couple of games. So that's why I'm going to make that switch. And I don't have a Liverpool attacker at the minute, and I don't like that. So if I go Sterling to Mane, that's going to give me a Man City attacker in De Bruyne, and it's going to give me a Liverpool attacker in Mane as well. And I feel a lot better having one of each rather than maybe 2 from one and none from the other. Question from Omar: is Pope still worth keeping? And if not, who is the best budget goalkeeper for a long run of game weeks? So I've got Nick Pope. I'm going to give him the Watford and Crystal Palace game. And depending on how he does there, and if I've got a transfer free that I can use before Pope plays Man City and Spurs, I might make a switch to probably Henderson or Matt Ryan. I think those 2 guys are the best budget goalkeepers this season. Henderson, Sheffield United are just excellent defensively, and then Matt Ryan just racks up the saves, racks up the bonus points. It's absolutely crazy. After 12 games, Matt Ryan has 11 bonus points. That is absolutely huge. Brighton got beat 3-1 by Manchester United, and Matt Ryan still comes out of it with 3 bonus points, and not saving a penalty. So I think Ryan might be the best goalkeeper in the game this season, closely followed by Henderson. I really like Kasper Schmeichel as well, for anyone who's got that little bit of extra cash and they don't mind spending, 5.2 million on a goalkeeper. I think Kasper could do really well over the next couple of weeks. The thing with him is doesn't get many bonus points, doesn't get many save points, so I probably do prefer Ryan or Henderson for a cheaper price. So I'm not ruling out keeping Pope for the season, but I do see myself maybe moving to one of those guys over the next few weeks. So I'm going to give Pope the next 2 and then reassess that one. Moving into captaincy and transfers now for Game Week 13. I put a poll on Twitter this morning for captaincy. I just said, if you owned all 4 of Vardy, Mane, Aubameyang and Sterling, who would you captain this week? When I looked at it last, it was about 2,000 votes on that. Vardy came in on top with 41%. Mane was second with 24%. Aubameyang third on 18%, just ahead of Sterling on 17%. Obviously, there's other options as well this week, but I think those 4 are probably going to be the most popular. I'm on Vardy at the minute because I don't have Mane. I'm hoping to hold off making that transfer until Friday. I've got 0.1 million wiggle room there on that transfer, so there's no need for me to pull the trigger just yet. So hopefully I can just wait and get all the information after the international games and then just do it last minute. So for me, it will be Vardy versus Mane if I follow through with that transfer, which I would say I'm probably 75%, no, probably more, probably 90% sure of doing at this point. So Vardy versus Mane, I'm going to think over that for the next couple of days. I think most likely I'll stick with Vardy. Just a man in form. He's on penalties. Mane isn't. Brighton are, they have been good at home defensively, but they were pretty open against Manchester United last time out. Webster's injured. Dunk is suspended, so I think that could be good news for Vardy there as well. That just might tilt it in his favour. With Mane as well, I think Mane, a lot depends on Salah for me. With Mane, I think I would rather captain Mane if I knew Salah was going to play. I think if Salah doesn't play, that might negatively affect Mane. I think it just weakens their front 3 overall. So again, that might be another reason why I lean towards Vardy. Aubameyang, if I owned him, home to Southampton, I think he's a really good option. I think if you own Aubameyang, you've probably got to captain him in that game. Sterling as well. As I said, I'm probably going to sell him, but I can see him punishing me right away. Sterling captaincy, I do like it for that Chelsea fixture as well, because I can see that being a high scoring game. I think Chelsea will come out and play, come out and attack. So I think if I had to call a game this weekend, it's going to be the highest scoring. I think it would be Man City Chelsea. So I do like Sterling for the captaincy there as well. One name I'll throw in here as a differential captain this week. I don't have him, and not many people have him, but I think if you do have him, you've got to consider him for captaincy. Richarlison, Everton, home to Norwich. Again, anyone who plays Norwich, particularly at home, you've got to consider them for the captain's armband. Richarlison has been looking pretty good to me in terms of the eye test last couple of games as well, so I think he will be my captain in quite a few of my daily fantasy lineups this weekend. Fully expect Everton to beat, put 3 or 4 past that Norwich defence. Moving into transfers, I've mentioned it. It's pretty straightforward for me this week. It's either stick to the plan, Sterling to Mane, easy peasy, or backtrack on the plan and just bank my transfer. So I think, as I said, most likely I'm just going to stick to it. Sterling to Mane. Then I really like my team for the next 5 game weeks, and hopefully I can start banking a few transfers here and there. If I do Sterling to Mane, that will leave me with a setup of Pope in goal, Trent, Robertson, Lundstram at the back, Mane, De Bruyne, Tielemans, Mount in midfield, and Vardy, Jimenez, Abraham up front. That to me, that is a really good squad for the next 5 game weeks. And then I've got Tomori and Rico on the bench, who are decent options who can come in and do a job for me as well, depending on their fixture. So I'm pretty happy with how I'm set up. Hopefully I can smash the next 5 game weeks and then manoeuvre around that game week 18 blank with the wildcard in hand. So I think that's most things covered ahead of game week 13. Thanks as always for listening, folks. If you want to hear more from me, patreon.com/FPL General. I'll be recording a Friday podcast which will go through the press conferences, my final captaincy decisions, my final transfers, all that kind of stuff. I do that every Friday for patrons. Recorded a Fantasy Weekly podcast on Monday. It should be available on Wednesday. That's always a really good one as well, with lots of good content, good stats. So check that one out when it's available. I'll be taking part in the grand weekend on Fantasy Bet this weekend, as I usually do, hoping to continue my good form. I've been in the money the last 2 game weeks, so hopefully I can make it 3 in a row there. FantasyBet.com, 18 plus, and begambleaware.org. I think hopefully Richarlison will fire me into the money. I'm going to give him the armband in at least one of my lineups this weekend. Probably have triple Everton in quite a few of them. Good luck in Game Week 13, folks. It's good to have FPL back. It's going to be a fun couple of weeks. Going to be a lot of movement in ranks and mini leagues over the end of November and the month of December. I think there's 63 Premier League games in the month of December, so I'm gonna say goodbye to my wife on Friday and tell her I'm gonna talk to her again on January 1st. Because there's going to be a lot of games to watch over the next couple of weeks. So looking forward to it. I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode. Cheerio.